Thanks for tuning in, folks. Here is part two of my interview with legendary Rock and Roll Hall of Fame drummer Stan Lynch.
I think some of the best of my generation, like with Dylan or Roger McGuinn or Don
Yeah.
Henley. You're in a room with these guys, and if you're not listening to these singers, you are you're an idiot, quite frankly. I don't know how else to put it. You're a freaking fool. And
For sure.
so if you're not supporting that level of genius, then you're kind of like you missed the bus and you're going to look like an idiot and you're not going to be on the record. So as a result, you don't look cool. So, if you don't make the delivery system, the guy at the microphone, if he's not feeling good and moving good and happy and confident and comfortable, you made an asshole out of everybody.
And that makes sense. And actually, if I could brush up the audience that those that are listening and watching may not be familiar, Stan, as I mentioned, is not just drummer for the Speaker Wars and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers previous, he's also a producer and a songwriter and a session player. So, I mean, you've written songs for Tim McGraw, and I mean, you Fabulous Thunderbirds, Jeff Healey Band. I'm looking at some notes here, if you don't mind. Eddie Money, Toto, Ringo Starr. I mean, the list is as long as my arm. And I guess what I wanted to ask was that being a songwriter, does that inform your drumming as well? A friend of mine wanted me to ask you this question specifically. How do you approach my friend Brad loves you. You're his hero. He wants to know, how do you approach your parts, um, in terms of, like, how do you think going in? Okay, you're listening to the song. Is it a natural instinct, or do you have a method you use?
Well, it's trial and error for me. I mean, I'm not a session drummer. I'm really not. I'm a rotten session drummer. Um, there's so many that are so good. I mean, I've
Okay.
gotten to work with some of the best, Greg Bissonette and Kenny Aronoff and Vinnie Colaiuta and I'm choking on it because these guys, I've been in the room with these guys that are so fast and so great, and they have such a deep well and such a quiver of arrows. I have a very narrow lane, and
Okay.
so I try to apply what I can do well to what's being presented in terms of the song. If I can do it, usually what happens for me is my approach is what can I leave out? How much can
Yeah.
I how much can I leave out? And let me start with a very small amount of information. And hopefully that will work. And I'm not always the right guy, even for the songs I'm writing. Sometimes I wish I had, I wish I could call Greg and Greg Morrow and say, "Come down here, man. Would you kick some butt?" And it's like,
Yes.
and I talk to these guys, and they've talked me through a lot of. Basically, I'm babbling, but the long version is the short version. I mean, is playing the right drum part for me is very trial and error, and it's very much dependent on what tempo you settle in, where the singer settles into his pacing, and the sound. It's a process to get a good drum track. I think it's much more difficult and much more arduous than just setting up a lid machine and going boom schmack. You know,
Yeah, I know.
Hey, that's great. You got a great there. You got a drum track, but
Yeah.
to get one that really swings and has some personality, but yet is still minimal, that's a man. That's still you got to go back to look at Ringo and Charlie and those cats and go, man, listen to what they did, and you go, oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I guess I should amend my statement when I mentioned you being a session drummer. I should qualify or quantify that statement. You have played on other people's records on occasion. It's not
Sure.
something you do regularly. I guess that's more proper to say, right?
Well, I would say I've been fortunate. I won't know
Yeah.
if lucky is the word, but yeah, I'll go ahead and say I was lucky. I played drums on like The Heart of the Matter for Don. That's a great track.
Part of my mother's life, I was just about to ask you that because you co-wrote that song, didn't you?
No, I did not co-write
Oh,
that
you
one.
co-wrote Last Worth Evening.
That is
Pardon me.
correct. And but yeah, but getting to play or like on Sisters, they're doing it for themselves. You know, Dave Stewart produced that, and I got a call to play on that. You know, I played on some really cool, you know, on a very occasionally what I do will work on a
Yeah.
session. You know what I mean? It's not, but like, you know, I've also watched Jeff Beccaro play, you know, in his prime. I watched him playing,
Man, eh?
and you go, that's unattained, that's unobtainium. You know, that's an element that you can only enjoy watching. And but yeah, I still do find the drums quite mysterious and exciting. And I, I I ain't worn out on it yet. You know, I dig it. It's cool. It's fun. It's a
Yeah.
challenge.
Well, you know what? I can see it in your playing, like in the videos I've watched on YouTube of you sitting in or playing with the Dirty Knobs. I still see 20-year-old Stan, the same joyful expression, the same love of music, love of drums. And I'm not blowing a smoke up your ass. It's absolutely true. Like I do see, you can see the people that are punching the clock, guys that have been, legacy musicians, right? That have been around for a long time, punching the clock because it's all they have to do it. But
Hmm.
I can tell you still love it. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't do anything at this point in my life if joy didn't
Yeah.
seduce me. You know, like joy is that's my liquor. You know what I mean? That is that's my dope. It's
Yeah,
like
man.
if
It's
there's
your
joy,
fix.
yeah, if there's joy and love and grace and ease, I'm gonna be in the room. If there's any reason for me not to be there, I'm going to feel that probably before anybody else. And I'll sequester myself quickly and go like, man, who you really need. And I usually got the number of the guy, you know, I can call him. And so I want to work when it's fun. And after that, forget it. You know, I'm done. I'm done worrying and I'm done stressing. I want to make music because it's the only thing I've been able to do since I was 15, and I ain't gonna stop. But I also ain't gonna punish myself anymore, you know.
Absolutely. And I understand. I mean, I'm approaching 60, and I'm starting to look at it that way. I've played at different levels, have some small record deals and cover bands and cruise ship work and stuff. And basically, my point is that after the COVID situation, work has dried up, and now I'm looking at it like, you know what? I just basically take gigs for fun now. I take something that I want to do. You know.
I think if you're fortunate enough to live long enough, it does come down to why you're throwing your feet off the side of the bed in the morning. You know,
Yeah.
why? What are you doing? Well, it's like, I want to live, I want to learn, you know, I want to share, and I want to experience this sort of the big wah. And if I'm not in it, I mean, I'm not, you know, when you're young, thank God for desperation. You know, thank God you're broke and you're
Yeah.
feral. Thank God, or you wouldn't get anything done. I mean, the
That's true.
Heartbreakers probably, you know, had we been born as trust fund kids, you know, don't
Yeah.
know what would have, you know, it would have never happened. You know, we would have had 20 excuses not to go do that. You know what I mean? It was way too much work and way too weird, you know, to be driving the van in a snowstorm with no heat and, you
Yeah, I
know,
hear you.
for no money. You know what I mean? Nothing, you know, and you show up and there's 10 people there. You know, we would have, you know, hunger makes a great sauce. You know, it's a great lubricant. It's a great desperation makes a great lubricant. And I feel that that's part of the charm that is lost now in today's world. I feel like, you know, I talk to younger people and they'll tell me, yeah, man, I really want to be a musician, but I'm in law school because if it doesn't work out, and I'm like, it already didn't work out. Trust me. You know, it didn't work out for you. You're going to be a lawyer. I know that. You know, I know it because you have an option. And if it and you're not going to take the hard road. I know that. You know, it's like, but I usually don't say that, but what comes out of my mouth is good luck, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But inside the internal dialogue is Yeah. You know, it's funny. I have to tell you, like you're probably the single most quotable person I've ever spoken to in my life. Like you're dropping pearls of wisdom with I don't even think you realize it. It's fantastic, you know.
Well,
Actually,
thank
it brings me to a point of a question I was going to ask later. Have you ever thought of writing a book?
it was weird enough to live it the first time, quite frankly. And it was hard enough, doing it. It was just hard
Yeah.
enough getting here. I think that a book, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with a writer named David Sedaris, but he's a great writer. He's funny. The only book that I would want to be involved in is almost like a Don Martin Mad Magazine looks at rock and roll. It's like um, to take yourself that seriously. I appreciate other people's books. And I've read, man, I just read Mike's memoir. I read
Me
Pete
too, yeah.
Williams' memoir. These are great. They're really cool. And these guys have a perspective. And mine is more like you had to be there,
Yeah.
That's you had to be there. You were either there or you weren't. So, and I don't know. Most of my friends have heard all my stories 50 times already. They're sick of them.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. That actually is a perfect way to encapsulate it. You had to be there, right? Because you
I
can tell
think
someone what Africa's like, but they won't know until they go, right? You know?
I
Yeah.
love it when people ask, like they'll go, "Oh man, so you guys played the S Festival, it was hundreds of thousands of people. What was that like?" And I'm like, "It was exactly like that."
Yeah.
What was it like? I don't know. I mean, that's what, but it's like anything in life. You can ask another human, man, describe parachuting. Well, you ought to try it sometime.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought of thing like, approaching it like asking someone, what is it as good as I would think it would be? That's so let me ask you this, if I can for a second move on to drums. I noticed your beautiful Dixon kit behind you.
Great. They're great drums. Great.
Yeah, well,
Both.
Jim Uting was the guy that set up this interview. So thank you, Jim, if you're watching this. I also endorse Dixon Drums. I'm the first Canadian artist ever signed with me, and they made me
Cool.
a beautiful custom kit.
Yeah,
And I got
yeah.
it. Your drums are gorgeous, man.
Oh man, this kit um, was basically designed by Greg Bissonette. And
Mm.
they were so, it was so cool because I was struggling getting back into the drumming game a little bit. And I was, I've got a stash of old vintage Ludwig stuff. That's kind of where I left off. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's wonderful stuff and it's great. And I was talking to Greg and just saying, hey man, they do have limitations. They're cool. And he goes, "Have you tried Dixon?" And I'm like, "No."
Yeah, you did perfect imitation.
Yeah, yeah. He goes, "Man, you got to hear the Dixons." And so he sent me some audio files, and I thought, well, quite honestly, the first thought that went through my mind was, well, shit, Greg sounds great on oatmeal cans. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, so I have no, but then he goes, "No, man, these are they're artisan shells are fantastic." And he went through the whole thing. And this kit that you see behind me is all down to his spec. And then Jim and
St.
the
Louis.
excuse me.
Jim Uting at St. Louis, is that what you're saying?
Yes, of course, these guys all got on the phone with me and they I had a soft spot for the old Ludwig thermogloss, that look
Yeah,
of
yeah.
and so they of course, they went all overboard to get me exactly the look that I wanted. And then Greg presented me with these shell sizes, which I would not have picked, but boy, did they turn out to be beautiful. And they built me a snare that goes with this kit that's a monster. And then of course I got a Bissonette signature snare, which is, it's like it's great, but it's
I'm
like
saving my pennies for one. I don't get, I get artist costs on some stuff, and so that's my next purchase is to get the Bissonette. So I love the sound of it. Your
you
kit
will.
reminds me of Bonham or Charlie Watts, like like the like you say, the Ludwig Bonham finish. It's such a beautiful kit, man.
It is. It's cool. I mean, can you see them good?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And I've got the pictures too that I'll be inserting so people at home
Okay.
can see a better look at the kit. Beautiful
Yeah.
drums. I tried them at the NAMM show. I was with Yamaha at the time, and I just wandered over to the booth. And when I was a kid, Dixon was a company that just made cowbell clamps and boom
Oh,
extension arms and stuff. I couldn't believe how good they sounded and the beautiful quality of the shells.
oh
And I
man.
ended up with them too. So I was really pleased when I heard you were with them. because it made me feel like, I don't know, one step closer to legitimate, you know?
That's an interesting drum set. I didn't realize until they arrived at my door and I was, kind of assembling a kit, and I'm looking at these sound edges, and the bearing edges are just gorgeous. And
Aren't they? They're beautiful.
yeah, the tolerances when I'm putting the head on. Of course, like I said, I've been playing my 60s Ludwigs, and
Yeah.
like you're kind of like, well, okay, like with these, when I pulled them out, were like they were like almost like spec to Smith and Wesson and Ruger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this stuff was tolerances were, and then I when I kind of like I talked to a couple of people about head combinations, and Greg set me up with this. I owe it to him. He's the one who said try this, and man, I ain't budged. I ain't budged on what he set me up with.
Well, I knew that he was your connection. I didn't realize till you just told me now that he actually picked out the sizes and everything. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, he made all the suggestions, even down
What a
to the
guy, what a drummer, right? You know.
no, I well, how wrong are you going to go by?
Yeah.
Hey Greg, what do you think I should do?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the answer to that is yeah, okay, that's a good idea.
It's like the Pope telling you you're a good Catholic, right?
Greg, Greg is he's a real force, and he's also such a force for good, like to be
Very
encouraging.
positive guy, yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah, 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 he's great. But yeah,
Actually, if you don't mind me asking, it's one of the topic with drums. I wanted to backpedal a little bit and ask you about your legendary Tama kit.
hmm,
Now, I saw it recently on sale at the Don Bennett Drum Vault. Um, so what I noticed was that there was a complete, what do you call them, like a shell bank, like shells in every size, right? Now, my
right.
question to you was, when I was at Yamaha, I did that. I ordered 8-inch to 18-inch so that for different sessions I could have different size drums. Is that what you did, or was it just the 80s overindulgence? Like, here, take everything when you
No,
move with Tama.
the Tama kit came as a result. I was playing a Gretsch, of tiny little baby Gretsch kit for the first couple albums, and I loved them. And I'm so pissed that I let them go. But they were really cool. They were a progressive jazz kit, in Jasper.
Nice.
They were really beautiful, and they were the stop sign badge. Great kit. I'd had them since I was a kid. And but when we met up, when Jimmy Iovine came, he brought an engineer named Shelly Akis, who
Yes.
was fantastic. I mean, because the night, Alice Cooper records, Moondance, Shelly was, he great, and he walked in and saw my kit and heard him, and he just said, "Nah, this isn't going to make it. This isn't the sound. We're inventing a sound for you." And to his credit, he indulged me and actually took me drum shopping, to drum stores and many different drum stores till he heard the Tama Imperial Stars. Remember, Shelley had no predisposition to expensive, cheap. He just
Yeah,
hears.
sure.
So when he heard the Imperial Stars uh, off a shelf, he goes, "Let me hear that drum," and he went like that. That rings. He goes, "I like that," and I think it had pinstripe. It was probably a tom tom, like a 14-inch tom tom with a pinstripe on it on the top. And that's what he heard. He goes, "Buy that drum set." And
Nice.
so I bought a set of Imperial Stars, and he was the one who said, you should get all the sizes because we
Yeah.
don't know what we're gonna want. And
Wow. Okay. Cool. See, I thought maybe you would sign a deal with to endorse Tama, and they just sent you a box of basically a shipping crate full of drums, kind of thing. You know.
oh,
That's
I bought my first two Tama kits. And
amazing.
yeah, I bought a kit to record with and a kit to play live with. And then Tama, I think we were in Japan, and Ken Hashino saw contacted me, or I believe it was, and said, "Hey, would you like to come to the factory, in Tama, the Tama factory," which was very cool. It was small
That must have been wild.
and then they started to basically send me a kit for every tour.
I've noticed that. I was going to say that's the second part of my question. I've noticed, looking through pictures and watching videos and stuff, you've had several Tama kits, and also several series of Tamas, some Grand Stars, the higher end stuff, and some beautiful custom. I think you had a custom kit. I don't know if it was yours, but at Live Aid, there was a Live Aid house kit, I think that was Tama also. It had the
Yeah.
Live Aid logo all over it. I was wondering if it was yours or if it belonged to the gig.
I
Do you
don't remember.
remember? Yeah.
Honestly, I remember I used their Art Stars for a tour. They were great. They were cool drums. They were great drums, man. And their hardware was early in the game was some of the most beefy. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
the first company to come at me with like, we've got serious stuff, and like, great. I love Tama, and it was part of our sound. It was I played that one kit probably for 10 albums, like I mean I played every song that you heard on the radio was that Tama kit.
That's amazing. That's I want to trust me. When I saw that kit for sale, I was counting my pennies, but it's not
So
in the
that
budget
ended up
this time.
that was cool. Who bought that was the Musicians Hall of Fame in Nashville.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've heard about that. That's
It
beautiful.
was it was really nice. And the gentleman who purchased it has passed, but it's a really cool thing. And then the money went to a really good cause. And it was yeah, I was really happy to see because I had mixed feelings about that kit. I'd break them out and I'd look at him, I go, what a great drum set. And I'd go, God, what the agony. There was so much,
Oh God, I know. I got for
like there was a lot of pain in that drum set too. I didn't really want to play them and I didn't want to store them. And it was great that they went to a good home. I'm really glad they went to a good home.
that's the same Hall of Fame that has the Hal Blaine Monster kit, right? I believe, or yeah, I think that they do. I'm pretty sure they have the Hal Blaine, that famous kit. So what you just brought up, if I can just touch on it for those that are watching and may not understand what Stan's touching on, if I'm correct, it was the recording of Damn the Torpedoes. There was some tension about getting drum sounds and things like that with Jimmy Iovine and Shelly Atkins. So we don't even really need to go into that, but I can see that kit being a catalyst and kind of a trigger for not just good memories, but bad ones too, right? You know?
Sure. I mean, look, we all have an awkward phase in our life, and mine is fully documented, like as
Yeah.
opposed to many people they only have like an awkward looking zitty picture in their high school annual.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have that, all the way through my 20s, fully documented. And I'm cool with it. Like it was, yeah, there were some rough moments, being in a band. If you've ever been in a band, two words will tell you all you need to know, and that's band shit. You know, I don't care if it's the Beatles, the Stones, the Who,
Hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
like, or your band, you're gonna have it. And it's gonna come, it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Drummers notoriously, I mean, as Gary Myrick once told me, he said, another drummer, another drum, it's like, so you're gonna feel some pain to grow and to stay in a band is it's gonna be brutal. And sometimes it's not worth it, and sometimes it is.
True enough. But I'll tell you this, the opposite side of that coin is it's got to feel amazing when Duck Dunn patting you on the knee and saying, that's a drum track. I'm paraphrasing, but that happened, right? Don't
Yeah,
stop
yeah.
dragging my heart around, I believe.
Yeah, he came in and basically take two. We cut that track and getting to play with Duck Dunn. Even if I got fired in 10 minutes, it would have been great. But the fact that he sat next to me, he liked the track. It's a great track. It's held up well. I've had that experience. Look, it doesn't, everything you do isn't always going to work. And sometimes when it does, you just go, man, that's great. But
Oh, for sure.
don't take your victories or your triumphs or tragedies too seriously. Don't take them too seriously.
Oh, that makes sense. But I was going to complete that thought by saying the Duck Dunn thing, and in Mike Campbell's book, he has a great story about you guys rehearsing with Bob Dylan, and he kept kind of coming closer and closer to you and got up basically next to you and was looking at you, and you were kind of smiling, well, what the fuck? And then he said, you're a really great drummer. That to me, Duck Dunn and Bob Dylan means a lot more than anyone else. Not to make it a competitive thing, but I mean, to have those two, that makes me I would focus on that before I would focus on anything else. Like two people that are legends and highly regarded musicians telling me I'm a great player, I think would make my life. That must have felt great.
Well, the actual quote was when Bob, I thought, well, I figured, well, I'm about to get booted. He said to me, he goes, I love what you're doing right now. I love that. I love that. And it was something to that effect. And he whispered it, which was really nice. It was like a moment where I went, I'm going to take that. I'm going to just take it. I'm just going to take it. But a lot of times in my life, I've gotten, like, hey, man, getting to play with Danny Korchmeyer is great.
Mm.
He's one of the best rhythm guitar players that ever walked this earth. And when he gets in a groove with you, it's fantastic. And same with Don. If you play something with that, because he's a great drummer. I mean, we all forget, like, because he's such a great singer and a writer and
Yeah,
producer.
that's true, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
He drums on every one of those Eagles hit singles, and there's a shitload of them. So
Yes.
it's like when Don tells you he likes something you do, that
Yeah.
means a lot too. And so yeah, but I don't take any of it lightly. I've loved pretty much every second of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's been a couple poopy moments, but yeah, it's all right. So what?
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, and the only reason I even touched on that is because I wanted to say, as I said, I completed the thought that I had, which was the other end of the scale to me is as a drummer, I would be blown away to have that kind of compliment. Like, to be honest with you, the hairs on my arms are standing up from that Dylan story you told me. It's like, that is unbelievable. My heart would be exploding in my chest.
Well, he's an extraordinary human, extraordinary artist. It's a once in a lifetime, as many of these guys are. But Bob Dylan is that's just what do you do? You just hang on for dear life and enjoy playing with him until the moment when he doesn't require your services. It's like you serve at the pleasure of the president. So it's like, he doesn't need you there. Bob can do a show.
Yeah.
If the drummer doesn't show up, Bob doesn't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's gonna be fine. And so you get to enjoy, it takes a lot of pressure off of you, quite frankly. It
I would
does.
imagine. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, geez, I can't even imagine what that must have felt like. But I think I'm kind of paraphrasing from Mike's book. He was saying that what it seemed to him, what really worked was that you were just yourself. You didn't let the situation overwhelm you. You didn't let the Dylan mythology um, hold you back. You just played like Stan Lynch, and it worked. So
Well,
I think it's great advice for young drummers that might be watching this.
there's a fine line between arrogance and lack of intelligence and cool. It's a
That-
fine mixture. Um, I was probably too stupid to know better. And so I just let my freak flag fly, you know what I mean?
yeah, very beautiful.
And it was fun and everybody went with me. And plus I had the guys in the band with me. Bob, in my stupid little puerile brain, he was joining our band.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. True enough.
He was going to be our singer. And so I was just thrilled, like, to go,
Yeah.
who's singing with our band now? It's like,
It's funny, but I was wondered if that why I'd love to see the remaining Heartbreakers go back on tour with Dylan.
I
I wonder
think
if that's ever come up.
I don't know. I don't know. The ship might have sailed. I think, um, I don't really, I have no control over those
No,
conversations.
I understand. It's just a fantasy scenario. I had like fantasy baseball. I have fantasy rock and roll teams that I put together, and I thought, you know what? He loved your playing so much, and he loved the band. If you guys were to do that, I know a lot of people would buy the tickets. Let's put it that way, right? You know.
Well, it's not like I didn't think about it when I hear Bob's going on the road. I kind of look at my telephone and go, "Oh yeah, it's not ringing." I guess it's
Right
like
now, I hear you. Not the same level, but
no, but it's like I kind of go like, "Oh, well, I think he probably can get my number, if he wanted me." So Bob can get anybody, anytime, anywhere. All I know is, man, I love him. I will always admire and revere that time. It's just like it was a great time to just get. And man, Bob was wearing leather pants. He was tough as a $2 steak, man. That guy was a badass front man. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
And he still is, but it was like in that moment, it was like you could, and I had three great front men. I had him and Tom and Roger McGuinn all on the same tour, like, so it'd be like just sit back and from drum stool and watch the show unfold and just tag along was fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I wanted to take the remaining time we have, and I want to talk about the Speaker Wars, your current band. For those of you watching that are just tuning in or unaware, Stan has a band called Speaker Wars, based out of where are you guys based out of? Is it Nashville?
No, we're based out of pretty much Dallas, Texas,
Okay.
is where most of the guys are from. I'm the odd man out. Still live in Florida, but the guys they all live in, basically live in Dallas, and we have a exec producer there that has a great facility that's letting us play and practice there, and that's our headquarters, if you will. And
Oh, okay, I see. Well,
you know,
it's funny. I listened to the album again last night. I've listened to it a few times since your publicist sent it to me. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. It's a great record.
thank you.
And it's funny because my reaction was the same as when I listened to the Dirty Knobs. And bear with me here when I say this. I thought I heard some similarities between Heartbreakers, but then I went, well, wait a second. Mike was in the Heartbreakers and Stan was in the Heartbreakers, so of course it's going to be bringing some of that element to the table. And I think the similarity is that both bands are diverse and true rootsy rock and roll. Like the diversity of the Speaker Wars is amazing to me. As I was telling you earlier, it's like you've got 6/8 kind of blues, and then you got some real country. Just a great spread of music across the board, and the songwriting is fantastic.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you.
there's really only two kinds of music, good and bad, so it's like, I mean, I'm genre averse. So it's, John and I both grew up, the singer, John Christopher Davis.
Okay.
We grew up listening to a lot of different kinds of music and without labels. I mean, I didn't realize that like I was listening to country music. I was just listening to Merle Haggard,
Yeah.
knocking me out. I didn't realize I was listening to gospel, but I was listening to Aretha Franklin. You know what I mean? I didn't care that, where it came from. All I felt was, this is amazing, and so John and I both generally hit on the same ideas of what a song is going to be. We have no idea if it's for the band or if we're just writing a song. We just follow our bliss for a
Makes
couple
sense.
of days. And then at the end of the couple of days, we go, oh yeah, that's a pretty cool one. We'll either send that to somebody else or let's keep that one.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But what's amazing is I like it actually sounds like a band. Like, I mean, it sounds like it was recorded on 2-inch tape live in the room, which
Well,
you don't hear much of these days. So
it's
how did you
that,
record it and where? Did you
well, we
record it in
had,
your studio?
yeah, a lot of it was recorded right here, and a lot of it was done in Dallas, and a lot of it was done during COVID. So we were file sharing. It was not optimal, but we were all burning our groceries and setting fire to our laundry those couple of years. So we were not communicating. And but eventually when the doors opened up, John came here or I went there. And
Yeah.
yeah, the band it's a great bunch of guys, and they're soulful, they're funny, they're irreverent,
Mhm.
and they can be very childish, which is great. And
Musicians being childish? Oh my lord. Yeah.
one line of work where you're actually encouraged not to grow up.
Yeah, yeah, true enough, right?
So, but
I gotta ask you about the album. How did you manage to get that? You managed to capture that in the room sound. Like I said, it sounds like it was recorded analog tubes, 2-inch tape. It really does. It doesn't sound it's warm. It doesn't sound like digital harshness. You know what I'm trying to say, right? It has that
um,
warmth and old school feel.
well, how we do that would be easily answered by just saying we got no choice. That's just what we sound like.
Yeah,
You know,
hallelujah. Yeah.
there's no plan and my life has been the. I mean, like I make a joke. A long-term plan between for me is between now and lunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have no plan. My plan is to just trip and fall forward and keep living and learning. So this record is just part of an evolution. Can't wait to hear what I really hope we get to do another one. Hope we get to go on the road and tour because we'll just get better. We'll just get better at it. And
Sure.
that's what I want. I just want to continuing. I want the thread to stay similar, but I want to just keep moving forward. And this record sounds the way it does because that's just the way we sound. We got no choice.
Yeah, that's a great answer. It's a true answer, right? I mean, I know you guys you're always welcome in Canada. We love good music. We love rock and roll. You know, can I close up with one personal question, if you don't mind? It's something for myself.
Sure.
How did you come up with the groove in Breakdown, the Tom Petty and Heartbreakers song? That groove is just chef's kiss.
Well, that's an interesting story. It goes something like this. Tom was toying with that riff on keyboard,
Okay.
and it was a shuffle. You could feel it as a shuffle, but I didn't know how to shuffle because I'm a young white boy from Florida.
Yeah. It takes a while to learn, right? Yeah.
Well, it's if ever. And so I was kind of scared of it, even when I heard that in the background. I was almost probably thinking, God, I hope they don't expect me to come up and be able to play that. And I think it was because your first impression to play a shuffle would be da 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 da
Yeah.
da.
That's right.
And that right hand was not swinging. I could probably do it now,
Yeah,
but
I've seen you with the Dirty Knobs. You were doing some great psychotic reaction. You were doing some great kind of shuffle feel and other songs. Yeah,
well,
you got it now for
the
sure.
grease comes much later in life. And
Yeah.
I think it was Jim Keltner who was around in that area at the time. And I asked him, I said, can you got any advice for somebody learning to shuffle? And he took me down a dirt road real quick about like, man, Stan, there's 50 kinds of shuffles. There's the New
Yeah,
Orleans
true.
shuffle.
Chicago, Texas. Yeah.
And he said, you'll drive yourself crazy. Shuffles, man. His eyes almost rolled back in his head. And I remember thinking, this isn't helping. I'm just getting more, this is more scaring me than helping, even though I knew he wanted to help. And but he did say something that in passing, he said, when you don't know what to do, put one hand behind your back. And my first thought was, he's having me on. This
He's
is
the
like
guru, isn't he, that man? That's amazing.
Yoda. And remember, this is early. I mean, he was probably all of late 20s or 30. You know what I mean? He was still a boy in my mind. And,
Yeah.
not in my mind. No, in my mind, he was on Mount Rushmore already because he'd already
Yeah, of
played
course.
Mad Dogs and Englishmen. I'd already seen him play Ringo. I in my mind, he was already, waters are parting when Keltner walks in the room. But he said, so I went out and behind the gobos where you couldn't see me play, I put one hand behind my back and played that drum part with one hand,
Yeah.
like chaba,
Uh,
chaba, and that there was a delay on Tom's microphone on his vocal delay, like a bop 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 bop, probably a 120 or
yeah,
30,
yeah.
and that put me right in the pocket because when you're playing with a delay, you can't really. It's got its own metronomic goo.
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is before
I've
click.
covered it before. Not, I never did you justice, but I have covered it. It's incredibly fun to play.
It helps if you have a singer with the vocal delay up, and then we're all in the same room. All accidental. The drum track is probably two microphones. It's probably an overhead and a kick drum.
Amazing.
And so I'm playing this thing in one hand. Nobody can see my hands, but I just remember when I started playing that beat, everybody just drifted into the room. Like it was just sort of a cosmic invitation, like, oh, well, that feels good. That whatever. And so as I'm doing it, then I kind of deciphered that, wow, you can do a one-handed drum part with two hands, like,
Yeah.
and then I think literally as I'm learning to play it, that's when the record happened.
Amazing.
And then
And
it,
you know what I have to say, with you telling me that, it's kind of almost got a Keltner type of, he never plays a straightforward part. He always plays something a little unique. So it's a combination of your creativity and maybe he was the spark plug perhaps that lit the fire, right?
well, I also had validation in my mind because I kept hearing In My Life by the Beatles.
Yes.
Very similar.
Yeah,
It's,
that's true. I never made that.
and I remember thinking, well, if Ringo did it, maybe, I mean, like you're always looking for a North Star to kind of bless your mess. You know what I mean?
And
And
what
like,
star better than the Ringo Star? Yeah.
so, I mean, it was like, I guess it's sort of a swinging version of In My Life with Keltner telling me, put one hand. So there's a lot like if Ringo and Jim Keltner are even talking to you somewhere in your soul, you're probably getting close, you know?
Amazing. Well, Stan, I think that the clock is about to be our enemy here. We got 1 minute left. I'd like to wrap up the recording by saying thank you so much, man. Again, at the risk of sounding like I'm blowing smoke up your ass, this means the world to me that you took the time to do this.
Oh man,
I'm
thank you.
you're one of the guys. You have your Mount Rushmore, and I have mine. And I've always tried to be a musical player, and you've inspired me more than you'll ever know. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks for turning your listeners onto the Speaker Wars. And I appreciate, everything that the guys at Dixon have done for me. It's been amazing. I mean, like to have this team behind me doing such a beautiful thing, So, but thank you. I really appreciate you turning people on to what we're doing and wish you the best.
Absolutely, thank you. And I'll put some links in the description on my YouTube channel to the Speaker Wars stuff. I encourage people to check it out because it's a really great record. Thank you
Yeah.
so much,
Well,
Stan.
and thanks to Steve Bunk too for like the guys at Dixon really did me a solid. Thanks a lot, guys. All right.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Yeah. Take care. Thank you.